Maybe that's why the simplicity of the 72 sold ads are just sell for a higher price. You see that 1,000 times a day, and some people are just going to believe it. They're just going to believe it. It's just this, but then when you look at the actual numbers, I don't know who actually came up with the numbers on this, but I saw it posted by a few different agents. They have this claim with 72 sold right now that they have an 8.4% higher sold price than the average. But then someone actually went through and ran those numbers, and they were actually 4.9% below the average. Also known as almost a full commission in some cases, And that's just a claim that they can. I mean, I'm not going to go out there tomorrow and say list with modern day listing and you're going to be 17% higher. I mean, come on, man, you can't make claims like that. It's irresponsible to just make claims on a giant billboard over and over and over when every house, every case, every scenario is different.
Welcome to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits. If you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and you want to learn some of the insider secrets and uncensored truths from the true professionals in and around real estate, you've come to the right place. Now, let's buckle up for the uncensored truth about real estate and join your host, Brian Cardenas.
All right, welcome everybody to our next episode of the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits, and that's going to be very true today. Maybe more so than other episodes so far, because we like to bring people on to the show who actually know what they're doing. And so, of course, we wanted to bring in Dustin Holindrake with My Home Group to join us today and kind of shed some light on the things in real estate that people don't know about. So first of all, I'd just like to welcome you, Dustin, say thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll have a fun show today. When we were talking about having you come on, it was like, okay, do we want to start some shit or what? And it's like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But I think it's important. It's more than, starting shit for the sake of starting shit. It's really about trying to bring to light some things that are going on in the marketplace today that the consumer just doesn't understand. And so I'll kind of start things out as I usually do and just kind of tell me, what do you think that you're seeing out there in the marketplace these days? Going on that people just don't understand maybe the truth behind what's happening. And that's really important for them to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I love the topic and I appreciate you caring about this topic as well. It's important, I've got a big problem with dishonesty, and I've got a big problem with gimmicks, and that's, and so a lot of people reach out to me on these topics we're going to be talking about today. A lot of people reach out to me quite often, talk about it because they know I'm really vocal about it. And it's not, I want to make sure that I'm really clear on something. I'm not vocal on these things because I just want to pick a fight or talk shit, like you said, or start whatever. It really comes down to, I've always been a really protective person. It's just my nature to be protective. And anytime I feel like someone's being taken advantage of or lied to, that bothers me a lot. And it should bother all of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of the whole purpose of this today is that real estate is, well, let's start off with the positivity. Real estate is chock full of awesome, hardworking realtors who really have the right mindset. Okay. I don't want to say that like the majority of real estate agents or companies or anything like that are scandalous or liars or gimmicks. Right. That's not the case.
Right.
It's just that the gimmick ones tend to get the most attention because for some reason there's this belief that real estate needs to be fixed or saved or disrupted, and all these disruptors, for whatever reason, they always seem to choose the Phoenix market before. We're always the testing ground for, I feel like
we're the petri dish for everything.
Yeah. And it's, over the last several years, it's been pretty tough to just constantly have to adapt and change and watch, every one of us realtors are losing business. And again, that's not the reason that I have an issue. Like I have no issue whatsoever applauding the success of others, like that's what we should be doing. We should be applauding each other's success. But, and we're going to talk about the ibuyers, we're going to talk about the gimmick companies, we're going to talk about them all. But it all kind of started for me years ago in my neighborhood when a guy who I used to talk to every day, or just about every day, because our kids went to the bus to, take my kids to the bus, and he would be down there, and we'd be, taking them to the park afterwards and stuff. We'd BS a little bit. And he always told me that he was planning on selling his home soon. And I was planning on listing that house. And then all of a sudden I see that OfferPad, he sold his house to OfferPad,
Yeah.
And I saw him at a soccer game down at that same park maybe a week later. And I asked him, I was like, what's up, man? I thought I was going to list your house. I thought we were going to work together. And he said, yeah, well, OfferPad just made it so easy. I didn't have to clean up all the junk. I didn't have to prepare for showings. I didn't have to do all the things. There's that convenience factor. Obviously, that meant a lot to him, and that's fine. But then I asked him kind of to dive into the details a little bit of that deal. And he told me about the price he got. And then that was, years ago, the OfferPad's fees used to be a lot higher than they are now. And I think his fees were something like 10 or 12% from that. And then he had repair credits and they had all these things. And in his mind didn't work in the way to where that math made sense. He just was kind of blinded by that huge initial offer up front. And that was in his mind, the amount he was getting. And after it was all said and done, I kind of ran through the numbers with him, and I helped him realize that he gave up about $50,000 equity that he would have put in his pocket after commissions, after everything. It was somewhere between 40 and 50,000. And his eyes were just like wide, and the words out of his mouth, I'll never forget it. And that was kind of what sent me on this conquest of I can't stand this. The exact words out of his mouth were, damn, I could have sent my kids to college with that much money.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, that impacted his life, and I wouldn't say in a positive way. So the sale was convenient, and he gave up a lot. Now, I'm not saying, again, the purpose of this is not to say that OfferPad is going to rip you off. In some cases, OfferPad and Opendoor, they're good for consumers. In some cases, they're just a glorified, higher funded version of We Buy Ugly Houses. That's always existed. It's always going to exist, but it's the lack of transparency. And I don't even want to say it was a lack of transparency, but he didn't fully understand what he got himself into. He thought he did, but he didn't. And so when I say a lack of transparency, I don't mean they were shysty or they ripped him off. I mean, they didn't make sure he understood what he was really losing. And I've got a problem with that. You know what I mean? Same thing with all of it. It's just, that's the problem I have.
And that's what happens a lot, even the real estate side and lending side. There's something to be said for convenience, and it's worth something. And how much do you quantify that? Like someone might say, if my option is to sell to one of these iBuyers, and I know it's going to cost me $20,000 straight up difference in convenience. If that's worth it to them, by all means, have at it. But absolutely. I think the problem, like you're saying, is people don't really know what that cost is for the convenience that they're paying for. And then when you get down to the numbers, it's disclosed properly. It's there the way that it needs to be. Even on the lending side, like I had a client recently, they had this whole sales sheet about the benefits, nothing discussed about the cost. And fortunately, she came to me and said, hey, what do you think about this? And then I kind of illustrated for her, well, if you look at, they didn't really tell you on this sheet what the cost is. They told you it's going to take you X amount of months to recoup this cost, and it's going to save you this much each month. Well, let's just do the math. Well, that's going to cost you $25,000. Oh my God, I didn't know that. And that's the thing. It's like, they're going to put the disclosures there. They're going to e-sign them because everybody, skips through and e-signs, doesn't really see stuff. And that's where it bugs me. And I had a different experience than you did, but it's the same thing. I see how people are not realizing what they're doing. There are companies that are out there that are not necessarily shysters, like you said. They're trying to make money just like everybody else is, but they're not being as transparent as they could be. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm trying to do is let's talk about, how these different things impact people. I know on the iBuyer side, I've heard numbers tossed about that are 10 to 14% in cost for them to sell that way. Is that kind of in the ballpark of what you've been seeing?
Well, that's how it used to be. And to my knowledge, and things are changing constantly. So, excuse me if I'm way off. My understanding now is that their fees are lower, but then their offers were changed to sort of offset. They're still going after the same net amount. To my knowledge, they're just presenting it differently to where it doesn't seem as bad. And going back to what you were just talking about, your industry is absolutely riddled with this stuff, even more than ours probably, with TV commercials where you can just advertise any rate and APR you want to, and then you put the fine print so small nobody can see it, and it's so fast, like TV commercials all day long. I just closed a deal with a guy actually. We have a new thing with my listing program where we actually flipped his house. His house was in bad condition, and we actually moved him out, got him into his next place first, put probably $10,000 into cleaning it up and new fixtures and paint and fixing things and getting it ready, right? And the whole time he keeps talking. Now, this is while rates are skyrocketing. He just keeps saying, make sure you tell all these buyers who are trying to buy my house that rates are at an all-time low. And I'm like, no, Joe, they're not at an all-time low. They're not even close. Well, according to the commercials he sees all day watching, MSNBC or Fox or whatever, he watches the news all day long. And so it's constantly commercials saying all-time lows or whatever, 3.25 interest, and it's really like 5%. Well, yeah, and that fine print, what is it? Like, pause your TV and get a magnifying glass and maybe you can read it? That's horse shit. That's a terrible way to do business. And so I believe that it's intentional. In some cases, and they're counting on people. Like you just said, people don't read over the disclosures. They're not reading the fine print a lot of times. And a lot of these companies are just counting on that. They're like, hey, you know what? We're just going to, and maybe that's why the simplicity of the 72 sold ads are just sell for a higher price. You see that 1,000 times a day, and some people are just going to believe it. They're just going to believe it. It's just this, but then when you look at the actual numbers, I don't know who actually came up with the numbers on this, but I saw it posted by a few different agents. They have this claim with 72 sold right now that they have an 8.4% higher sold price than the average. But then someone actually went through and ran those numbers, and they were actually 4.9% below the average, also known as almost a full commission in some cases. And that's just a claim that they can. I mean, I'm not going to go out there tomorrow and say list with modern day listing and you're going to be 17% higher. I mean, come on, man, you can't make claims like that. It's irresponsible to just make claims on a giant billboard over and over and over when every house, every case, every scenario is different. In some cases, maybe they're true, but there's a lot of also examples that we've been seeing on social media of people looking at their listings saying, yeah, they're claiming they sold it $100,000 above asking, but they priced it like $60,000 under value in this specific case. And that's not a claim I'm making. That's a claim that I've read that lots of other realtors have made or seen or given a specific example saying, they're bragging about price. They listed it way under value. And of course they got multiple offers, and it's irresponsible to me. Yeah. I heard the new claim is sell high and buy low. So now they're saying sell your house now and then get into a rental and buy when house prices start dropping in 6 months. They don't know that house prices are going to drop in 6 months. I mean, is that possible? Of course it's possible, but there's no way to know that. So you are potentially shortchanging people of all this equity they can potentially continue to be building. We don't know what the market's going to do, but now they're saying sell now and then buy when the price drops. So what happens if they sell now and the price goes up another 100,000? That's equity that these people potentially gave up because of an outlandish claim, right?
Right.
That's not marketing, man. That's just being unethical, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to try to make a claim about what is going to happen and use that as a basis for your advertising, that's overstepping, because even the idea that the prices of homes are going to go down, there's a huge debate on that. And most economists are not expecting that to happen, especially in our market. Our market should continue to go up. It's going to be at a lower rate of appreciation than we've had, because that 20, 30% is kind of crazy. Yeah, we need it to come back to the 4 to 5% like it's traditionally been. But, on a $500,000 house or a $600,000 house, you wait 6 months, that $2,000, 4%, whatever appreciation rate, that's a lot of money. And then you're paying somebody else's mortgage in that time. And oh, by the way, good luck trying to find a rental, for that.
Oh God, it's awful. And it's awful.
Rentals they're terrible right now.
And the way they make the claim also quite often is one of their selling points on that program is stay in your home for up to 6 months. You cannot, listen, I don't list the volume that they list, but I do list homes. I'm good at listing homes. I have a lot of, that's my passion, to be honest with you. Since day one in this business, I've been doing this 13 years. I love working with sellers. That's my thing. I find a lot of excitement and joy, and just, I like creating new systems. That's my thing. I would never in my life sit in front of somebody and just claim before we go to the market that, yeah, you're going to be able to stay in your home for 6 months. Because how many times have we gotten a house on the market that we thought was going to kill it, and it didn't perform as well as we thought it would, and we were not able to negotiate that. To make a promise that you can't guarantee is geez, that's awful. That's just awful. I've got the numbers right here in front of me. Like, we were talking about the numbers right now. As of this morning, 7898, so just under 8,000 homes on the market. 3 months ago, we were at 4,650. So that's up an enormous amount. And that's the number that everyone's focusing on. And that's probably the number that that's the headline, right? That's the sexy news. That's the get you startled type of news. But that's still, you look at 2 years ago when the pandemic had just started, we're at 13,650. So we're still close to half, of what it was, 2 years ago. And that was still a seller's market then. So exactly, yeah. It's to say that the prices are going to start dropping already. That's irresponsible. That's irresponsible to just try and predict the future. What's important is you educate people on what these numbers mean. Tell them what potentially could happen. But man,
that whole claim about the staying in the house for 6 months, I think it's important for consumers to understand the circumstances that you have to have for that to be able to come to fruition. The first thing is if you have a buyer that is buying that house and they're financing it, they have to occupy it within 60 days. They can't let you stay there for 6 months. Exactly. So if you're going to insist on being able to stay in your house for 6 months, now you cut your buyer pool down to just people who are investors or second home buyers or cash buyers. Yeah. So that's one of the big things that, people don't understand. That sounds great in the advertisement. Oh, I can stay for 6 months. Awesome. That'll give me time to go purchase a house. And you can try to negotiate for that. And you might have been able to get that done in the last, year because the demand was so high. Right now, things are softening a little bit. And you may not have, 20, 30 offers to insist that you only have people who are willing to let you stay for 6 months. So, if it's important to you, you can do that. But is 72 Sold the only one that can do that?
No, and honestly, there's a program we utilize for people who are looking for something like that. There are options for this. Don't get me wrong. Like there's a sell and stay option with I can't think of the name of the company now, with a company called Easy Knock, for example. They'll buy your house, and they'll do it. They buy it at market value. You get 70 or 80% of your money up front, and then you get the rest of it when you move out, and you can rent the house, and you can rent it for the next 10 years if you wanted to, but it's a rent thing. It's not, for free. And I'm to be honest with you, I don't know if 72 Sold's claim is that it's free or for rent or what. Maybe they do partner with Easy Knock, but I've never seen any mention of that, or I've never heard anyone talk about that. Very few agents really utilize that option, but it does exist, Yeah,
and those are some of the other things that the people, I think, when you're seeing advertisements as a consumer, you don't know when something is unique or if it's available through anyone. And that's the thing that I think is important for people to understand is, some of these claims that we hear out there, like, get the highest price for your home. And it's not, just one company that's offering that. Like, what is the best way, in your opinion, for a seller to get the highest price for their home?
Well, the best way, first and foremost, there's your house will always sell for the most money on the MLS with just like a traditional type agency type deal. If you're selling to an investor, if you're selling to any sort of investor, you're going to, I mean, they're in the business of making money. And so obviously here's the thing, there's never going to be a substitution for agents and for good representation. Like I said before, we're always under attack. We are always trying to deal with the next disruptor, the next, I've got a list here of some of these disruptors, where flat fee companies, a lot of flat fee going on anymore. In fact, I had a flat fee in my neighborhood about a year ago or so. They sold a house in my neighborhood, and when I looked at the price, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, they only charged, I don't know what it was, $3,000 or $4,000. I don't remember which company it even was. I think it was maybe AZ Flat Fee. I don't remember anymore, but I remember looking at the price, thinking to myself, my God, that was like $60,000, $70,000 under what I think I would have listed that house for. And so, yeah, it sold above asking, but they priced it so low, I couldn't believe it. And so again, like, if you're going out looking for the best price, the best commission, you sort of get what you pay for in a lot of cases. Not always, but my take on flat fee companies is that in order for them to be profitable, they have to do high volume. And the higher your volume is, there comes points where service starts to suffer a little bit. You can only work with so many people at a time. Now, of course, you can hire more and more people, but you as the agent, you become less available. But they have to move those houses quick. They can't sit on the market. Now, of course, this market, over the last year until the last month or whatever, different story. You can, a house is going to sell for over asking no matter what. But it's always these long extended seller markets where all these innovators and disruptors always kind of pop up. And then the minute the market shifts, a lot of them disappear. We just saw Rex go out of business, last week. I'm not sure if you've heard of Rex.
Yep.
I know they were big in Austin, where I go to sometimes and hang out, but they're another one of these, list your house for a flat, like it was only a few $100s, if I remember correctly, or something like that, or maybe $1,000. They went out of business and they couldn't make it. And they're actually suing NAR and Zillow now because they are claiming that NAR and Zillow both suppressed their listings somehow. I don't know the details of that. Purple Bricks didn't make it. They're out of business. I read that Homey laid off half of their workforce. They're not thriving here like they have in other markets. Opendoor, they've never made a profit. I don't know where their money comes from. They've never made a profit. Zillow, obviously, Zillow was using their own money to buy houses and trying to trust their algorithms because they're trying to say that algorithms can replace agents, and using their own. Opendoor uses hard money essentially to run. They use like VC money, where Zillow was using their own cash and they still couldn't make it. At the end of the day, AI will never replace agents. People say, oh, what about travel agents? Travel agents didn't make it. Well, there's a big difference between planning a vacation and selling the largest asset you have. And now travel agents are actually starting to make a comeback because people are sick and tired of the technology and the algorithms and the kayak and the whatever, all these, Priceline and all these different websites. The travel agents are actually surging again. There will never be a substitution for good agency. An agent can work 2, 3, 4 deals at a time pretty easily, or sometimes more with assistance, things like that. But we know what we're doing, and the fee that we get paid, it's worth it in the end. It always nets more money. It's all there is to it.
That's the thing that I think, a lot of these companies that are trying to come in and disrupt things, number one, they're looking at the commission structure and they're going, hey, this is a bunch of money. We can siphon off part of this for our business venture, or we could offer a flat fee, or we could offer a reduced commission. And like you said, what you end up seeing happening is there's not enough in there for them to run a business on. So they end up going out of business.
Yep.
And then they also get the consumer to focus on that. What is that commission percentage? Hey, we'll offer it for less. And they convince them that that's going to be better for them because they get them solely focused on the commission percentage. Yeah. And they're not focusing on how are you going to net the most? Even like some of these systems out there, well, we're gonna not have to show your house. You can have a 2-hour showing. I think the post that I saw where we kind of talked about having you come on was like 2 hours on Mother's Day, or in the middle of church or something like that.
Yeah, like 10 a.m. Think about that for a minute. And I got to tell you, and this is just my personal experience, and I made a post about it. And if you go back to that post, and all my posts are public, so if anyone wants to go stalk me on Facebook, you'll see a lot there. I don't really hide anything. I'm not trying to start a fight or be slanderous in any way, but I'm just talking about facts. I can't tell you how many buyers I've worked with in the last year or two who have said, don't send me any listings from 72 Sold or Hague Partners because I don't like the way they do business. I can't tell you how many cash buyers I've worked with who showed up to a showing because they had a 90-minute showing window, open house, and they showed up and there's a line down the street and they said, I'm not going to bother. That's a cash buyer that could have by far been the best. I mean, and that cash buyer, they were generous. They were ready to spend whatever they had to spend to get a house. They were not going to deal with the inconvenience of that 90-minute showing window and standing in line in 100-degree temperatures like everybody else was willing to do. The amount of agents who have reached out and said they've also had that experience just goes to show. I mean, I remember there was one I was actually looking at for myself 6 months to a year ago. It was a vacant house in a neighborhood I liked, and they would not let me see it until the open house. And how in the hell is that doing a seller any good to reduce the amount of showings? Is it convenient for the seller to not have to have the showings? Sure, but give it the weekend. One thing I'm actually working on right now is I'm going to start putting my sellers up on a staycation, like some Phoenician or South Mountain Resort or something, and put them in a hotel for the weekend and say, let us hold this thing open all day Saturday, all day Sunday. You guys go, play in the pool and have dinner and do whatever, and give them maximum exposure. Minimum exposure, does it create a sense of urgency? Yes. But you're creating a sense of urgency in this really small pond instead of this big pond where there could have been a few sharks, right? And so, let's think outside the box and think of ways to get better representation, not just gimmicks to make it sound cool. A 90-minute showing window on Mother's Day at 10 a.m. I mean, a friend of mine, Leela, actually, she got a Hague Partners listing under contract not too long ago. Under asking, she was the only person who showed up to the open house because it was on a Tuesday at 1:00 in the afternoon. That was the only time they made available. She was the only one that showed up, and her client got the house. Imagine if that house would have just made it to the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that has always kind of bothered me about that limited window. You sell it to the consumer as a convenience. Mm-hmm. And the reality of what it does is if it creates that situation where you had a line out the door, you're going to take pictures, you're going to promote the heck out of that to benefit the real estate broker and say, hey, look what we did. Yeah, and then the reality is you lost a bunch of potential buyers out of it because you restricted access to the property. And it's like, you got to use some common sense as a consumer. Like, if we make it harder for people to see this product, is that going to make it easier to sell or sell for a higher price if we restrict the ability for buyers to see that product? No, it's not going to happen.
It's no different than if Walmart wouldn't change their hours from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. I mean, who's that benefiting? Yeah. It's common sense to me. And listen, here's the deal. As I say with everything, I'm sure there are plenty of instances at the same time where maybe they did get the highest and best offer they would have gotten in that 90-minute, and maybe it worked out really well. Who knows? I mean, just like I don't like them making outlandish claims, I'm not trying to make outlandish claims either. I'm not trying to say that they're losing their clients' money every time. I'm not trying to say it's poor representation. I know a lot of agents over at that company who are great agents who their businesses have boomed. They're getting a lot of leads. They're getting a lot more listings than they used to get. But it's just then they're sort of taught from the things I've heard, from the conversations I've had. They're taught these gimmicks once they join. Here's an example. I actually printed a Facebook post. I'm just going to read it. I talked about it right before we started. Here's a post from an agent in the this was in the Arizona Real Estate Agent Forum. My buyers from California are flying tomorrow to see homes in Goodyear. I sent a request to show one of the homes, and the agent's response was, please send me an offer above asking price so I can approve the showing. If your buyers don't like the house, they can withdraw the offer. My response was, I'm not going to send you an offer just so we can see the house. It would be a fake offer and a way for you to tell other agents that you have multiple offers on the table. She responded by letting me know that she is more than happy to train me on how to list homes with this tactic, and that all the agents in her brokerage are doing this. The brokerage is Hague Partners. Unreal. I've also heard, I also had a situation maybe a year ago where two agents that I know were saying the exact same story, and then they heard from the agent that the listing agent was trained by the company to give a fake story about the situation of the sellers, and the reason for certain things had to be certain ways. But then they ended up writing offers on two separate Hague Partners listings and got the exact same story both times from different agents. Like the details were exactly the same. And it just goes on and on. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had about this. Just show up and be honest and do your best and serve people. Why the hell can't we just do that instead of the gimmicks,
So you want a house, but you keep getting beat out by all the cash buyers and institutional investors. So what do? Well, you need to call us at the Cardenas team at Finance of America Mortgage. We can turn you into a cash buyer even if you need a mortgage, so you can beat out the competition and get the home that you want. Visit us at www.thecardenasteam.com or call us at 480-331-4684 to schedule a free consultation. The Cardenas team, we treat you like family.
Yeah, I think that's where it gets lost, is having a transparent approach to the transaction and fully informing the consumer to all their options. Like, I'm sure you and plenty of other agents, can give people the ability to stay in their or try to negotiate to stay in their house after closing. You're going to negotiate to try to get the highest price for them that you can possibly get from the buyer pool that's out there. If you need to sell the house first, you've got connections to be able to get the house sold. If they don't want to do any renovations, or let's say they do want to do some renovations and then put it on the market, I'm sure you've probably got options for that as well. So tell me some of the different ways that a person can sell their home in this market.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. And the word transparency to me is everything. That's really everything that I'm trying to focus on. So like with my option, my listing I have a program called Modern Day Listing, and we have cash options, we have listing options, and we have creative options. And so we can make you a cash offer. We have a program, a second part of it called Cash Offer Plus. That's actually where we shop it to other investors. It's sort of like in your industry, you guys have Lending Tree. I think that what's their slogan? When banks compete, you win. Banks compete, you win. And, consumers responded to that really well. I don't know if they're still doing well, if they're even still around. I just remember that. But there's a traditional listing option. We have a Listing Plus where we'll do like I talked about that other house. We went in and spent about $10,000 out of pocket to make that house sell, but it sold for about $90,000 more than it would have. And so I recouped that money with a higher commission that covered it, plus a small fee. And he was thrilled. We have move up options like you're talking about. Like there's several different companies out there now. One that we work with is Homeward. I've actually got a Homeward one going now, where the people are moving into the new house first with a strong cash offer, and then we sell the old house. And then once the old house sells vacant, usually sell for more, then they complete the purchase. We have we have creative options. Like we talk about, like where we will, like, let's say someone's upside down in their house, for example, which doesn't happen a lot, or maybe they're in a bad situation. Maybe we can do a subject to type deal. We have sell and stay options where people can sell their house, collect the cash and rent it back. Like they need money. Maybe they're starting a business. Maybe they want to reconsolidate their debt, get their life in order, but not move. They can do that, and they can buy the house back at an agreed upon price up front. We've got rent to own options. We've got options, like I can go on and on and on about options, ways to sell your home. There's really nothing we can't do. But the most important thing about what I do is I listen to what their needs are, but I present them with all the options at the same time. And we go over the pros and the cons, and they can see the bottom line. This is the convenience. This is what you would net in every one of these situations. These are how the fee works. This is the benefits of, maybe if you need to have some post-possession or you want to rent the house back. You have everything at once. We'll even show them what the house would rent for and hook them up with if that's their best option, is to just move out and rent their house and have that income, I don't earn anything on that. I'm still going to show them that option because it's about what's doing best for the consumer, not what's always best for myself, you know. And it's just kind of an abundance mindset that I don't need to make every single situation a deal. I'm not there to try and hard sell anybody. I'm just here to say, look, these are the options you probably didn't know you had. And let's discuss every single one of these options, you know?
Yeah, I love that approach because that's really how we operate as well. Is you have to listen to your client, and you've got to hear what their needs are, what their plans and goals are. And then that's where you take your expertise and your knowledge and lay out in front of them, here's what the options are that might address your needs and your goals. Here's how it works. Here's what the costs are. And then let them make an informed decision. I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day is making an informed decision and making it, of your own will, as opposed to getting sold on something because it sounds good, but I really don't understand what I'm getting into.
Yeah, and we show them the iBuyer options also, you know, so they know. Here's the deal: if I've had this happen probably 4 or 5 times in the last year, there's times where Opendoor is their best option. Period. There's times with that kind of stuff. Then we'll go that direction, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Period. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what that's what the fiduciary really means. A lot of people don't think about that. They, agents bash investors and investors bash agents, and it's like, let's just see let's stop bashing each other and let's work together. Let's present the best.
Yeah, and I think that's a key part of all this is for people to understand is, when you're using an agent that's representing you, that is what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's in the code of ethics. That's what your fiduciary responsibility is to put your client's interest above your own. And that's what I think is so important for people to find is, how do I find that agent that's really going to do that? So if put your consumer hat on for a second, how would you advise people to choose an agent? Like, what should they do to try to find the right agent to represent them?
Well, I say, the first thing people should do, honestly, I mean, I'm willing to bet that every single person I know knows 3-4 agents probably.
Right.
And so my opinion is that you should always start with the people you know, because those are the people who are going to care about you and they're going to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. Start there. Now, if you don't know an agent at all, one good way, I've met multitudes of clients over the years doing open houses. I don't do as many now as I used to, just because I've got 3 kids and 2 of them are pretty close to being grown up, pretty close to they're in that last few years before they're adults. And so I've made the decision to do less open houses, a lot less open houses than I used to do, just so I can spend my weekends with them as much time as I can with them. That's my focus right now, before they're grown. But in my opinion, that's a really good way because you can go out on one Saturday and you can meet 3, 4, 5, 6 agents, and you can just talk to them and face to face instead of reading, looking at their websites or, reading reviews. A lot of times reviews are friends writing reviews, and sometimes they're not. But I really personally believe that open houses are a really good way to meet a good agent. Just find someone you click with, find someone you feel comfortable with, ask a lot of questions. I'm really big into open houses. I also own an open house company called Open House Helpers. And so between myself and my company combined, thousands and thousands of open houses done over the years. And, we teach classes on this. One of the most important thing, if you're an agent, if you're doing open houses, if you want to have people want to work with you, is know the numbers of the neighborhood, know the numbers of the market in general, be able to answer questions. People feel really comfortable if you can answer questions without having to pull out your laptop. If you just know these things, stay on top of these numbers. Like the numbers I gave earlier with the number of active listings now versus 2 years ago versus 3 months ago, you should have that ingrained into your brain as an agent. You should know that stuff. You should know how many homes have sold in your neighborhood in the last 6 months. You should know those types of things. But yeah, that's a really good way. I feel like, as far as like a lot of agents subscribe to like Zillow and realtor.com, those agents tend to be pretty hungry to earn your business because they're paying a lot of money for that lead. They're paying outrageous money. Every time you click on a Zillow listing, talk to an agent, they're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that a lot. And I think Zillow might have changed that recently, but my personal opinion is that if you really want to get to know somebody, belly to belly is the way to do it. So start with your friends. If you don't have any friends that are agents, start hitting open houses in the neighborhood you want to be in, because most likely that agent works that area. And so you're going to have someone who has market knowledge of the area you want to live, you know?
Yeah, I think
There's a statistic that internet leads on average take 18 months to convert into, like, from the time they register on a website like Zillow or Redfin, from the time they actually buy it, 18 months is the average sales cycle. And with when you meet people at open houses, they tend to be more serious anyway, and more. So that's like 12 weeks average time frame from the time you meet them to the time they buy. So it's usually more serious buyers and agents who are like ready to go to work for you right now. You meet agents online, you're falling into their like automated drip systems, emails, and you're not really connecting with anybody that way.
Yeah, the thing that you got to remember is, especially if if you're a buyer, you're going to spend some time with that agent. You need to feel comfortable with them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to feel comfortable with their knowledge.
Yeah.
And just somebody that you're going to be able to click with, because you're not going to want somebody representing you that you guys are just grating on each other's nerves. It's not going to be a fun experience for you.
Yeah, and buyers should be picky with their agents, and I believe that agents should be picky with their buyers also. Honestly, there's nothing worse than when you get locked into a contract with a buyer or a seller, and then they get on your nerves. And every time the phone rings, you're sick to your stomach going, God, I don't want to answer this call. Hey, I guarantee there's plenty of buyers and sellers out there who feel that way every time their agent calls. They're like, oh, God, I have to talk to this bozo again. Work with people you enjoy their company, you want to be around, people who are like-minded. That's one of the benefits. Like people, if they're looking for a divorce lawyer, they're looking for sort of an asshole.
Yeah.
But we're lucky that we can actually have a personality and be ourselves. There's a misconception. A lot of people think of realtors, and they think of used car salesmen, because there's a lot of realtors who believe they have to fit into that box. Like me personally, I'm dressed right now the same way I would be if I was going out and doing a listing appointment or showing a house to a buyer or whatever. And sometimes people don't like that, but I put that out there because I want them to have the opportunity to not work with me if they don't like me for who I am. I lose business all the time from people who don't like the beard. They don't like the tattoos. They don't like whatever. They don't like old trucks and all the things I'm into. And I'm not going to show up to your house in a suit and tie. I'm not going to drive you around in a Cadillac. I've got a big monster F-350 that you probably don't even want to climb into because it's hard to get into physically. I'm not sacrificing who I am for anybody. And I don't feel like anybody should have to. We should all work with people. Like, your vibe attracts your tribe. I want to work with people who want to work with me. And I want those people to work with somebody that they feel comfortable with, even if that's not me. I'm fine with that. Okay, losing business, if it means I'm attracting people that make me just wake up in the morning with a big smile on my face,
Yeah, I think that's a big deal because, a lot of times people get caught up in numbers, and especially with things being so automated. People can do everything on their phone nowadays. And in the real estate business, I always tell people, like, at the end of the day, this is a people business. This is not a transaction that you do online and you have no connection to other humans. Like, you're going to be connected to your agent. The agents are going to be connected. The other agent's going to be connected to the seller. Occasionally the buyer and seller connect. And it's about people. And like, if everybody's putting their interest in terms of trying to come to a meeting of the minds and benefiting everyone, not one person trying to take advantage of another, then, you can usually come to some middle point that everybody can walk away happy. And you got to be with those people that you feel like have that interest at heart, as their priority and their main concern.
Yeah. Everyone, look, I lose business from my friends to other agents. I mean, and honestly, in the last 3 months, I feel like I've lost about probably 10 deals of friends who decided to work with other friends of theirs that they were closer with, or family members. And I'll be honest, man, for a lot of years, when that kind of stuff happened, it hurt. It's a stinging feeling. It's a punch in the gut. I'm sure it happens to you all the time too. Yeah. Someone you're friends with, all of a sudden, they're getting a quote from Rocket Mortgage or one of these online lenders or something, or it happens all the time. And I used to let that really bother me, but that's really scarcity thinking, and that's low. That's just a low end mindset. A friend I've known for 20 years, recently she just sold her house. She wanted to work with me, but she ended up selling it with her husband's sister, who's a realtor. So her sister-in-law. And she felt really guilty about that because she wanted to work with me. And she thought I was going to be upset with her. And I just told her, I'm not going to let you damage a relationship with a family member over a commission. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Go, if things don't work out, I'm here for you. If she doesn't get it sold, or if things just go south, I'm here for you. And congratulations on the sale and your move and all these things. You're still my friend. Another friend, same situation. He was divorcing. Him and his wife were divorcing, and he wanted me to sell their house. And the wife's brother was a realtor, and they ended up, the fight was just too much for him to handle. So they ended up going with him. And he's, feeling super guilty about it every time I see him. And it's like, don't worry about it, and I feel bad because the brother ended up charging him like, geez, like this really, really high commission and did, in my opinion, didn't do a very good job at all. But, again, it came down to choose your battles. We have to have thick skin in this business, like really thick skin in this business. Rejection is part of it, and we have to learn how to handle that. But again, from the consumer standpoint, go with the person that cares about you as a person, if you can.
Yeah.
Everyone, I can't think of a better way to put it, I guess.
Well, and that's it. It's about the people and the relationship above money. Like when you put money above the people, things are going to go south real fast. So
yeah,
just
funny how when I start caring about money just starts showing up,
Yep. Yeah. There's that old saying, like when you're worried about it, you get commission breath, and everybody can smell it coming a mile away.
Yep.
So just kind of put a bow on this thing. If you could, leave me with a piece of advice for either buyers or sellers in this market. What would one piece of advice be that you can give them with what we're seeing out in the marketplace these days?
Based on what I'm seeing, and of course, everything is a prediction. The numbers are alarming in the rate of change, but the numbers themselves are not alarming. So to say that our inventory has gone up 43% in the last 4 weeks, yes, that's a true number. And that's a number that a lot of people are using to sort of be alarmist, like now's the time to sell your house. Don't get me wrong. This is a absolute indicator that we could be seeing a shift. And when people think shift, they think 2008 mortgage meltdown. I personally believe that's a once in a lifetime event and that's when I got into real estate was during that, when everybody else was getting out, my stupid ass was getting in there. It was, that was hard times. So I don't think we're going to see that again. I think we'll see a normaling out. And, even if we do see some price drops, honestly, I don't think it's going to be drastic. I am seeing a lot of price reductions in some saved searches I have. Like, we're looking at buying another house right now. And I've got a saved search for listings that pop up in my criteria, and I'm seeing some price reductions going on. I'm noticing a difference, but at the same time, I feel like the market's been so overinflated that maybe it's just going to come down to a normalcy. So my point, I guess the advice I have right now is, number one, don't make drastic decisions based on emotion. Don't, there's a term called FUD, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You hear that a lot with with cryptocurrencies and stuff. You have these alarmist news stories that come out trying to FUD you out of the market, trying to get you to sell out, trying to get, panic sell. Same thing with the stock market. I don't think we're in a place where we need to panic, but I think we're in a place where we definitely need to pay attention. And I think if you're going to work with somebody who understands these numbers, who follows these numbers, who makes this a part of their business. Here's the number one way you can tell if a real estate agent is good, in my opinion, as a consumer. Just ask the simple question, how's the market? What do you think 9 out of 10 realtors say when someone says to them, how's the market? Brian, what do you think their answer is usually?
It's great.
Yeah. For who? If you're a buyer, is the market great?
Not fun.
It sucks. And now that's changing a little bit, which is great. The correct answer is, well, that depends. Are you looking to buy, sell, invest, rent to own? Like, what are your goals? You ask questions. If you ask that question to someone, they say the market's great or the market's hot, that's a stupid answer.
Yep.
Pay attention to this. Listen, here's the truth. I hate statistics and details. If you know the disc profile,
yeah,
my C which is my analytic brain on the disc profile, is like a 10. It's like as low as it can go. I hate focusing on numbers. I genuinely do, but it's part of my job.
Right.
So I have to force myself to read these numbers, and I've got them up every day. And every week as a team, we go over these numbers, we dive into details, we read the daily observations on the Cromford report, and we give data that actually matters. And I actually get compliments from other agents all the time, which is cool, that say, like out of every agent I know, and all of us have 500 real estate agent friends on Facebook probably, you're the only one that's posting data that actually matters instead of just promoting themselves or promoting these houses. Like, it's not always a good time to buy. It's not always a good time to sell, and we need to be honest about these things.
Well, I think that comes back to what you were saying earlier is, having somebody that knows their stuff, that knows their numbers, and can give you that information to help you make an informed decision, being transparent about it, not just giving the answer that they think that you want to hear. Yeah. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but you need to know what those options are, what those choices are.
Yeah. So. And like I said before, work with someone you like, but ask those questions and ask them specific questions about the market, because you might really like your spouse's cousin's next door neighbor who just got his license, but he also might not know how to open a lockbox, and he might not know how to write a contract. So when I say work with someone you like, that is very important, but you gotta make sure you're working with someone who's seasoned and who knows how to handle issues. Like, I've got a deal right now we're working where a major septic issue came up 2 days before closing, or 4 days before closing. Would your spouse's cousin's next door neighbor know how to handle that, or are you up shit creek with that septic tank? So make sure you're just asking questions. That's really it.
Yeah, it doesn't stop at because you like them as the criteria.
Who you work with really, in a flat market, it doesn't matter as much. In a buyer's market, if you're in a buyer's market, then, you can have some tolerance for a buyer's agent who doesn't quite have all the ropes yet. But in a tight market like this, it changes things.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference who you work with. And that's, one of the constant themes that I keep hearing when talking to agents is, all agents are not created equal. And you really have to do your due diligence ahead of time. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to multiple agents until you can find the one that, your gut feels like this is going to be the right person to represent me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brian, this is even more true in your industry. Again, we go back to your industry. The mortgage industry fascinates me. One of my best friends is a lender who I work with often. I don't work with a lot of buyers anymore, but he and I talk a lot about the things that consumers don't see. So I'm talking about the things that consumers don't see with real estate. But in mortgage, it fascinates me how frequently a borrower will just dump you over 0.1% lower rate from some company. I feel like who you work with matters in real estate. Who you work with in mortgage really, really matters. Yeah, way more than who you work with as a realtor, because there's absolutely there's no worse scenario than working with an online lender. And I pick on Rocket Mortgage. They're the big one, obviously. There's several of these online lenders who will, if a commercial says, we'll get you qualified in 15 minutes, run like hell. That is, so here's what's going to happen with your 15-minute qualification is you're going to go out shopping for homes. You're going to get beat out on about 10 homes in this market before you finally get one accepted. You're going to be so damn excited you finally got your turn. You're going to pack up your house. You're going to put in a change of address. You're going to go through escrow. And then 6 or 7 days before close of escrow, you're going to find out, oh, it turns out you don't qualify because of you had declining income, from this year to this year. And now you don't qualify. Or because something an underwriter saw toward the end, and you've put in your notice on your rental, and you've put your kids in a different school. Like I went through this years ago. It was actually the private lender. It's a different situation, but now you're like in the worst possible situation where you don't qualify and you're canceling the deal. If it's not soon enough, you find out potentially losing your earnest money because you wanted to save 0.1%, because you wanted to save, and like we talked about before, that 0.1% might even cost you $1,000 out of pocket in points, or a couple thousand you didn't even know about. Right? Yep. You guys get shopped constantly by people. I feel like there's less loyalty in mortgage than there is in real estate. And I don't know why that is. And I think it sucks because you guys work so hard.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you acknowledging that. But you're right. I mean, it's become a commodity, because you can go online and you can see an interest rate. And that's the big number that everybody focuses on is the rate. And they don't really focus on, well, what does it cost you to get that? And what is that impact over the long term? Because, yeah, the low rate sounds great and it is better for you in the long term. But how frequently do people refinance or sell their house? Like it used to be 7 years before somebody sold a house. Refinances were typically like 5 years. People are refinancing like every year or two. And if you paid a bunch of extra money to get that low rate that, the lender focused on for you, and it was going to take you 4 years to recoup that money, well, you screwed yourself because no one was giving you that information.
Imagine spending like $5,000 to refi your house to save $5,000 until your next refi. Yeah. The only person that wins in that case is the lender.
Yep. Yeah.
And a good lender. And a good lender is going to make sure that they're going to break that down. They're going to break that down saying, let's make sure this is a good idea for you to do. Yeah. Lower payments attractive, but you're out of pocket might not make that worth it to you. A good lender is going to look at that before they just say, yep, fill out the app and let's get it going, And here's something a lot of consumers don't realize. A lot of these big internet or retail lenders, the Rock, I don't know about Rockmore. I know and maybe this has changed. You can verify this, like the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos. A lot of their loan officers are not even licensed. Is that correct?
They don't have to be. Yeah. They don't have to be licensed. They don't have to go through the educational requirements. Some of them do go through that, but they don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. We can tell, trust me. And that'd be like working with a lawyer who didn't go through law school.
But I watched a lot of Law and Order and stuff like that on TV. So I'm almost as good as a lawyer.
I've watched enough of those shows to know that my wife's really into those shows. I know that if she wanted to kill me and dispose of my body, she's educated. She would know how to do it. That's why I keep my life insurance policy low.
Yeah, cut out the incentive plan for her.
I'm worth more alive than I am dead for sure.
That's a safe way to go.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to kind of help educate the public. If people want to get a hold of you, can you give us your contact information? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's moderndayrealestate.com. That's the name of my team is Modern Day Real Estate. We don't really advertise it a lot. Yeah, if anyone has questions or just wants to shoot the shit, I'm happy to have a conversation anytime.
Yep. Dustin will shoot it with you. All right, man. Appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate your time too, man.
All right. We'll see you guys next time on the next episode.
If you'd like to reach out to today's guest, Dustin Holindrake, you can reach him at 480-754-9300 or at moderndayrealestate.com. Thanks very much for joining us. And please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, share, all the cool stuff that helps us grow, and come back tomorrow to listen to our next episode. Until then, go out and live life uncensored.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to help us out and subscribe. Follow and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. And check us out on YouTube for the full video podcast. If you want more information on any of the topics discussed on today's episode, email us at uncensoredrealestatepodcast@gmail.com or give the Cardenas Mortgage Team a call at 480-331-4684.